शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः दीपज्योतिर्परब्रह्म दीपज्योतिर्जनार्दनः दीपो हरतु मे पापम् सत्यादीप नमोऽस्तुते।
May I please request everybody to stand up for the national anthem, please.
जन गण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल गंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Jai Hind. May I request Event Chairman, ACFI Board Member, Mr. Satish Lakaraju, to please come forward for the context setting and to present the theme video for today. Can we have a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen?
Thank you, Sakshi. A very good morning to all of you. My pleasure to be hosting the event along with the first officer of the conclave is me, and the captain on the flight ACFI 0305 is Yash. The dignitaries on the dais, Shri Piyush Srivastav, Madam Dr. Jigvisha Joshi, Divya Satyaja ji, Madam, other dignitaries, my colleagues from the ACFI board. It's an amazing feeling to be standing here on a flight which is completely packed with over 320 passengers. The temperature outside is nice, but we are keeping the temperature within also warm for you so that you don't fall asleep. We also have the food on the flight today, both Indian and continental. We've got your drinks arranged as well. But what's important for us to understand why this conclave is happening? Exactly 12 months ago, in the same venue, we had the ACFI conclave, which happened in this very hall on this side. But what you can see is that over the last 12 months, a lot of initiatives from the ACFI side had led us to this packed house today. 9 days before the event, I actually called up Yash and requested him that we can't take any more registrations. We have 22 different sponsors who've volunteered. We did not have to really chase. So a big round of appreciation to all the sponsors. who we never had to chase really, but we had everyone come in. Also, the delegates come from freight forwarding companies, airlines, CHAs, trucking companies, warehouse operators, charter operators, aircraft manufacturers themselves, terminal operators, airport ground handlers, startups, tech companies, wide range of people from the media, both all over the country, because typically in a cargo event, historically I've seen is that the media is restricted to the northern part of India. But this year, when the ACFI conclave was being looked into, I think we realized the importance of covering everyone. So again, thank you to the media partners. And then we also have educational institutions which are here because we realize that research is a very important aspect and getting thing. Also, we see a lot of youngsters who are here to support the event and volunteers. So to a big round of appreciation to them. I'm sure over the last couple of days, you would have noticed there's a lot that was happening on the social media front. We have put a lot of effort in terms of creating the content. The concept note was designed to really have very good panels. We also have international speakers. Glenn, thanks for accepting to come back within a 1 month's notice onto the dais. He was here on the March 27th and 29th. So that's also commendable that we have international participation this year. We were expecting a few more, but I think there are too many cargo events that have happened on a back-to-back basis, and some of them have to fly back into Europe as well. ACFI stands for many things in terms of why it was constituted, which I will leave it to the president to speak. What I can tell everyone here is that when Yash and the board wanted me to contribute to the industry, I said ACFI stands for an attitude which is very positive. You can see the energy in the event committee. I can't take everyone's name, but every day we were getting up at 5 in the morning to put this event together, sleeping quite late in the night in terms of getting everyone to be very comfortable. But C stands for a collaborative approach in the whole gambit of things. You can see the number of people who are here. We are very forward looking, so F is where it is. And I told yes, definitely we are intelligent as well, because we are so agile in terms of changing agenda even in a last minute at 2 in the morning thing. So we are clearly flexible, we are agile, and we are intelligent. We've got 3 business sessions which are very interesting, which cover important topics which were discussed, and we decided to have these topics. One, air cargo is always constituted to be one of the most expensive ways of transportation. But we've got to tell you that what air cargo can do and what it galvanizes to the business. Then we see that while there are opportunities, there are also challenges. So the second session, which Sanjeev moderates, talks about the challenges and how we addressed. But we this time bought in the domestic front, and which is why I did not talk about the domestic front when I was speaking earlier, is we realized that there's a big amount of domestic cargo that moves, and there's a lot that can be done even on that front. So Keku, my good friend and the board member, and also chairman for one of the task pillar, he will be moderating that. But we've got other content which we have built. There will be a lot of networking opportunities. There will also be great amount of knowledge that comes out through our esteemed speakers who are here in terms of what government initiatives are happening, and the PM Gati Shakti program and what implementations and where we stand on that. And surely from Mr. Piyush Srivastava, who will talk about the other aspects from the ministry side as well. So I think this is basically what is in store for today. So request you all to make best use of it, and looking forward to a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lakaraju, for your inspiring words.
Are you playing the video now for? Oh, yes. Thank you.
That was very powerful. From 3.15 million metric tons to 10 million metric tons is our vision. We can, we will get there. All we need, as the video said, was speed and power to be added together. You know, I was just thinking that COVID-19 has taught us and the aviation sector that we, all logisticians and cargo, is no longer a 12th man. We are the front-footing batsmen. We will take the spinners, all the googlies and all the adversities which nature or the world throws at us. So we have made our place engraved and etched in the aviation world. Now I would request the keynote address by Mr. Glyn Hughes, Director General, International Air Cargo Association, TIACA, to please come forward and address the august audience, please. Yes, please. Can we have a round of applause for this charismatic gentleman?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just looking for the technology so I can click. Thank you. They say you want me to tell some jokes whilst they're waiting. I've been under strict instructions from my children not to do any jokes. Thank you very much. Ms. Jivashi Joshi, Deputy Secretary Logistics for the DPIIT. Mr. Piyash Srivastava, Senior Economic Advisor, Ministry of Civil Aviation. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, and most importantly from me, friends. It's a pleasure for me to be back in India. I think I'm going to take up residency soon. I enjoy coming here so much. And I must say congratulations to my friend Sanjeev. The airport experience here just gets better and better. I spend my life in airports, and some airports I literally spend an entire life in, but not here. Here I process smoothly, so thank you very much. What I'd like to do is really touch upon three themes this morning. First of all, a very quick look at the macroeconomic picture, then look at some key global growth drivers, and then finally finishing on a spotlight here. Although I'm not sure if this is the right presentation looking at the titles. Yash, I don't think this is the final version. So I will talk through the first part because there was some stuff that we put in which was actually quite important. First of all, some of the key aspects from the International Monetary Fund is that the growth picture going forward should be resuming next year. We know that the challenge this year has been very much related to the global consumer and the tightening of domestic finances, particularly caused by global inflation and high energy costs. And with those seeming to come down, it does look like that actually the picture for consumer activity will be resumed in earnest, we hope, at the beginning of next year. And that is true from all of the major consumer markets. One of the things that people say, well, what's different between the industry now and the industry pre-COVID? And I think one of the key differences is where the capacity comes from. Pre-COVID, and on the left-hand side, we see actual cargo tons, but on the right-hand side, we see the availability in terms of where that capacity originally derives from. We see that the freighters played the bellies played a more significant role pre-COVID. During COVID, with the grounding of passenger aircraft, the freighter, and particularly the Praetor, which is the passenger aircraft redesignated for cargo use, really stepped up and carried the mainstay of the activity. And going forward, we anticipate from an industry perspective that the balance of capacity will be weighted more towards the freighter than the belly in future. Now, this is true, of course, not in all markets, but just in general terms from a global perspective. Some of the growth drivers, and this again is an important one because we know that the air cargo industry is premised on the fact that consumers are buoyant, consumers buy. When we look at the difference between 2019, which was the last full traditional year, as it were, and 2024, which is when we expect normal activity to resume, that's half a decade. And in that half a decade, we expect to see another 400 million affluent middle class joining the consumer activity. Now, of course, when people join the consumer activity or the consumption class, they equip themselves with domestic appliances, with electronic goods, with high-value items, and this is where air cargo is a primary driver. So things look very progressively important going forward for this industry to support that growth in the global middle class, of whom most will actually be in Asia, here in India, China, and Southeast Asia in particular. Okay, so we're going to switch to the good news is those first few slides are the same in both presentations. Are they switched or is it switched? One, just quickly in terms of smartphone sales, what we do as TIACA, we try and monitor global activity of individual items. Smartphone sales in the last few years have been down, but this is good news. It's not very common that you say when something is down, it's good news because it's pent-up demand. So the demand during 2020 and 2021 was predominantly being used to support people through COVID, but the demand for smartphones and other gadgets will actually resume. And again, that's a major driver for this industry, particularly here in India, where a lot of the, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but a lot of the electronic manufacturers are looking to actually have their +1 here in India. This is really an analysis of where the manufacturers are in terms of market share. Doesn't really matter because, of course, the components all cross borders, independent of final assembly. So at the end of the day, everybody that's involved in the process wins in terms of business generation, heading towards that 10 million metric tons. We're still on the old one. And seamlessly, the technology guys will probably change presenter as well, and I will come back younger with hair. Okay, that's the presentation changed. Have I changed? Let me check. No, I'm still the same. This is what I love about this country. Everything is, don't worry, it'll get done instantly. If this was in other parts of the world, I will not say where, they would say, I'm sorry, sir, you'll have to come back next Thursday. Then we would have changed the slides. Thank you very much. That's why India leads IT for the entire world. Okay, let me just go forward to where we were. E-commerce. E-commerce is another global growth driver, which is very significant in terms of driving the industry forward. And what's interesting to note is that I think that in India, or in fact in most countries, we talk about e-commerce as an inbound activity, whereas here I think you have not only the inbound opportunities, but outbound. The world wants to have what India makes. And I think that's something which is very positive going forward, is that you are not just a consuming nation, but you're also producing and exporting. So I think that bodes extremely well going forward, particularly when you see that Asia is going to be the center of growth for e-commerce, as well as many other items. Now, what I wanted to do here is really focus on where we would say that air cargo is powering global trade. So I've got a couple of examples. First of all, and for many of us in the room, we can remember that fashion used to be a high street activity. We would go into the stores, our families would go in, and maybe 3 or 4 times a year. So then it was what we would call slow fashion. It was changing by the season. Then, of course, what happened is people like Inditex came along and they introduced a new concept, which was fast fashion. This was very much about taking the latest trends, getting them manufactured, and getting them distributed around the world through, in Inditex's case, 7,500 retail outlets, but a growing online presence, and they use air cargo exclusively for their manufacturing process and distribution. But things have always gone through evolution. Now we have ultra-fast fashion. So we have Shein, which is Chinese-based. They have no retail outlets. They are exclusively online. They are ultra-fast. They want to be leading in terms of ahead of trends. And again, they're going to be basing their distribution network on the fastest mode possible, which is air cargo. So we can see through many other commodities that it's actually evolving from traditional slow, which was maritime supported, to faster, which is air cargo, to ultra fast, which is air cargo and express. Another example, and this one came from a very interesting story, that the Canadian pork belly exports, forgive me for being very specific, but traditionally that moved by ship. There was one particular sector for this, which is in Manitoba, outside Winnipeg, where the product, which was chilled pork belly, basically went on a 2-day truck trip to Vancouver and then a 28-day sail through to its Asian markets. During COVID, the farmers were having trouble getting hold of available slots on the shipping lines because a lot of them were cancelled. So they happened to just meet casually with a member of the air cargo community at Winnipeg Airport. And he said, well, why don't you fly it? And they said, well, what's that going to cost? And this was during COVID. He said, it's going to cost you about $1 million per charter. And he said, well, how can I make money out of that? He said, because it's a different product. It's not chilled pork belly anymore. It's fresh pork belly. So he actually now, it was 1-day truck, 14-hour flight. And the reason why this is so significant is it turned a product, the same item, but it turned it from an 800 million Canadian dollar product into a $1.2 billion Canadian dollar product. So it gained 50% additional value, and that was because of the value that the air cargo industry gave. You used the word this morning as well, and this enables people to derive additional value from the products that are already being made. The same production technique, but faster supply chains allowed him to make, after his additional supply chain costs, he still generated hundreds of millions of dollars of additional value. We see the same in the wine industry. There's a particular product called Beaujolais. Traditionally, Beaujolais is one of those, it's a young, fresh grape, and its quality is in the early freshness of the wine. So back in the 1960s, there was a race called the Beaujolais Run, which was really about who could get the first bottle of Beaujolais into the parish bistros. That has evolved into now the Beaujolais Run involves 35 million bottles being air freighted to over 100 countries from 60 days from going from grape to that distribution into those overseas countries. It generates millions of dollars of value, or say euros of value to the French wine industry. And again, it's value created through the air cargo industry. Valentine's Day, for people who are probably ahead of the curve and buy the flowers for their partner. Unfortunately, I don't fall into that category. Dear honey, I forgot, sorry. Here's 2 bunches. And just remind me, when was our wedding anniversary? She said last week, you missed it as well. So here's 3 bunches. So I'm keeping the flower industry going. But the reason why I'm highlighting 2 countries here, I'm going to highlight Colombia and Kenya. In Kenya, there's 500,000 people employed supporting the floricultural industry. 70% of those flowers go to the EU. In Colombia, 500 million flowers were actually produced for Valentine's Day. Their key markets are USA, Russia, Japan, and the UK. And in the 3 weeks preceding Valentine's Day, LATAM, just as one carrier, put on 100 freighters per week. That was basically 14 a day, if my math is correct. Yes, 14 a day. Now, the reason why I'm putting this examples here is a lot of times, particularly when I go and speak to, as it were, some environmental groups, they say nothing should be flown air cargo. It's environmentally polluting. And I say, well, if you look at some of these products, if you want to grow these in the UK or Northern Europe during wintertime, you have to put them in greenhouses, you have to artificially heat, you have to use chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and plus, how do you tell those 500,000 people in Kenya that we're no longer going to naturally grown produce to actually themselves and their families and send their children to school because we actually are going to grow them artificially in Northern Europe? So this is really as well where we have to look at our role, and we would say the word responsible emissions. We have to look at the good and the greater value that is created by air cargo, not just in product value, but how we're also supporting developing nations and how we're supporting the global community. And air cargo is a significant enabler and driver of global prosperity. And lastly, just moving through into India, congratulations to the Indian economy. You stayed resilient throughout the pandemic. You are leading the way in terms of growth going forward. And I think this bodes incredibly well, particularly to achieve the objectives that the government and the industry has set. India is also probably one of the best connected economies in terms of with whom you do business with whom actually values and appreciates the Indian quality. That also supports going forward one of the key aspects of what I personally believe is going to be an enabler of you achieving the $5 trillion economy and 10 million metric tons. And one thing I know is for certain, in India, you never use the word, it's not going to be done. It's always, it will get done. And I think that's also what sets this market apart from almost any other market in the world, is you have supportive governments, you have supportive industry, you have a global consumer base that values your products, and you're also trading with everybody. And I think as the global economy seeks to expand upon its China plus one scenario, which I think India is best poised, better placed than many of the fill that void. What's coming forward, particularly when it comes to the quality and the infrastructure. Congratulations to India. The World Bank has recently released its 2023 rankings for the logistics performance, and India has made a significant step up. These are the 5 largest economies in the world. I say that with some sadness because, of course, if I had done this presentation last year, but such as cricket this morning and economy, you've served, so congratulations. Although I live in Switzerland now, so I claim neutrality, so I support all markets, all countries. But overall, I still think there's a little bit more work to be done here, but the key is you're going in the right direction. And again, we know that India is leading the way in actually saying we will get things done. So with that, I say thank you. Thank you again for inviting me to speak, and I wish you a very successful rest of the conference.
Thank you, Glenn, for your insights and valuable inputs and making us all feel proud Indians today. Thank you so much. May I request the IT team to kindly play the videos we have received from Mr. Martin Drew from Etihad Airways, please.
Hello, my name is Martin Drew, and I am the Senior Vice President for Global Sales and Cargo at Etihad Airways. It is an absolute pleasure to be joining you all virtually for this year's Air Cargo Forum India. I would like to congratulate Yashpal Sharma and his team at Air Cargo Forum India for organising such an outstanding event and for generating the focus and attention that India so richly deserves. It is an exciting time for our sector in India. And over the past few years, we have witnessed the rapid transformation of the country's airport cargo infrastructure, digital infrastructure for cargo handling, networks, and the development of collaborative partnerships that have allowed us to reach new heights. The country has now overtaken China in terms of its population and has the largest youth population below the age of 30 in the world. And having such a young, educated population who are hungry to succeed certainly bodes well for the country and for our industry, with new talent paving the way and establishing a huge number of startups that we will benefit from and the world's markets will also benefit. Together, we have faced the challenges of COVID, and now we must look to the future. India's e-commerce sector is booming and is expected to become a market in less than 5 years. India is also the single largest provider of generic pharmaceuticals globally, handling more than 50% of global demand. Vast amount cargo sector in India, and this phenomenal growth, it means that the sky is literally the limit. COVID also taught us that that it is so important to divest and diversify, and many manufacturers are now embracing the China Plus One solution and moving their operations to India. India is a key market for Etihad Cargo, and we've continued to add depth to our Indian network, adding destinations and free of our customers and our partners. Partnerships have been critical to our success, and we fully support and look towards Air Cargo Forum India to bring the air cargo community together and to focus on leveraging our strengths, technology and processes so we can contribute to India's long-term growth and success in meeting future challenges and bringing about positive changes. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the forum.
That was indeed a very inspiring and encouraging message coming from Mr. Drew, Senior Vice President, Global Sales and Cargo, Etihad Airways. People reaching out to us virtually only shows how India is growing on the global map and creating a niche for itself. Can I request the IT team now to play a message from Mr. Guilam Haliu, Chief Officer, Cargo, Qatar Airways, please?
Hello, everyone. My name is Guillaume. I'm the Chief Officer Cargo for Qatar Airways. I am terribly sorry I cannot be with you today. When Yash asked me to be a keynote speaker at the ACFI meeting, I was extremely honored, and I really would have loved to be there. Unfortunately, my business is taking me elsewhere down in Africa this week, so I will not be able to be with you. My message to you today is to share how much I appreciate the support from the Indian market for Qatar Airways. India is a very important market for us. It's a very important market, period, for the world, now becoming the most populated country in the world with a massive consuming market as well as production for exportation. We believe a lot in India, and we're going to continue to invest in India with our cargo capacity as much as possible. I believe there is a bright future for air cargo in India. I believe there is a bright future for carriers and for freight forwarders alike. So with this message, I wanted to say thank you for your support to us, Qatar Airways, but also to our industry. I hope we are serving you quite okay. We do our best. We put our heart into it, and I am grateful for your business. I wish you all at ACFI a wonderful meeting this week. I'm sure you will come up with tons of new ideas as initiatives, and I look forward to meeting with some of you, Yash, hopefully in Europe next week at Air Cargo Europe. Thank you.
Thank you. We thank Mr. Guillem Haliu from Qatar Airways for, again, a lovely message all the way. Now, may I invite on stage the man behind the show, the power, the motivation for all of us. President ACFI, Mr. Yashpal Sharma, we are all ears and keen to hear your inspiring words. You are actually, Yash, the adhesive which has brought all of us together.
Hi, am I on? Very good morning to you, everybody. Piyush ji, Jivisha ji, Divya ji, other dignitaries on the panel, other dignitaries who are here in the audience, ladies and gentlemen, our media partners from across the world. It gives me immense pleasure to be here and represent this great association called Air Cargo Forum India and address all of you. It's a great pleasure, sir, ma'am, for you to be here and joining us and reinforcing that all of us are here together, and we will make sure all these visions and dreams that we are trying to create, we are all trying to create them together, and we'll make it happen together. And like Glenn said, we know how to get things done. If it's a PPT or anything, we always have a plan B and we act fast. Ladies and gentlemen, what exactly is air cargo? We are all here discussing air cargo, and it's very important that we set the context as to what are we talking about. Air cargo is not just another means of transportation. Air cargo is something that helps the economies to grow. It helps us to connect economies of the world. It helps us to connect businesses of the world. It makes us make various dreams of shippers around the world come true. We also make true some of the dreams of all those buyers around the world who dream to get something in their life, and we make that happen. And we make that happen in real fast speed. We save lives. When it comes to any dire situation anywhere across the world, we are there to make sure we are able to move any kinds of medicine, vaccines, etc., from one corner of the world to another part of the world. We make sure that air cargo is there to build the global GDP. I have been saying this, it's one of my favorite lines, and I would like to say that again with all the due permissions, that if you look at the growth of mankind, the GDP of the world of the last 1,000 years, and you look at the growth of the last 100 years, the most growth in absolute terms and in percentage terms comes in the last 100 years. There is no comparison what happened the previous 900 years to what happened now. And this I always say, of course, there are many other factors, but this was made to happen because of aviation. Aviation made sure that we were able to move people as well as goods quickest, fastest from one part of the world to another part of the world. And that's what the global economies need. That is what growth needs. Growth needs quick actions. We are in a world when you want something now, you don't want it tomorrow morning. And what can make that happen is only air cargo. We heard Glenn talk about Inditex, who has been putting air cargo right into the forefront of its needs. And there we have lots of shippers here. So I would prompt them to please do look at this aspect. Why did Inditex grow from being a small retailer in one part of Spain to one of the leading retailers of the world today? Is because they put transportation, by air in front of their business plans. What it meant, they could move fashion fastest from one store to another, from the producer to the hands of the buyer. You look at Shein, what Glenn also spoke about now. What are they doing? They're not looking at stores. They're not even probably looking at anything to store their goods. They want to move goods from the supplier straight to the buyer in absolute quick time. All that you see happening today, e-commerce in its real true sense would not be possible if there was no air cargo. So air cargo actually makes dreams happen. The air cargo actually makes dreams come true. What is it that the shippers of the world need? The shippers or the buyers of the world, when they go around, they want to make sure that the supply chains of any country are doing well. When the buyers look at India as a possible sourcing hub, and when we are talking about we being possibly China +1 to them and being the factory to them for the next 2 to 3 decades, what is it that they really need? They want to make sure that the supply chain of India is absolutely efficient and trustable. They want to make sure that the produce that comes out of the factories in India is of top quality, the quality that they were told that they will get. They also wanted to make sure that the products are readied on time. And lastly, they want to be very sure that the logistics infrastructure, the logistics ecosystem of that country where they are producing and sourcing their goods from is trustable to actually carry goods to them in the time frame that has been mentioned. Lastly, they need to know what is the plan B. In case something doesn't happen in time, what is the plan B that a country has, which is how efficient is the air cargo ecosystem of that country. Because if something doesn't happen on time, then it's only air cargo which will get goods to them in absolute quick time. So this is what Indian air cargo is aspiring to do. While the government of India is taking some very, very encouraging steps, what all we are seeing over the last 7 to 9 years is absolutely very, very warming, and it gives great pleasure, not just to me, but many, many other Indians, when we see that the government is walking faster than us. They are ahead of us. They want more things to be done by us quicker than what we think they should happen in. The kind of investments that we are seeing in India, if you see the PLI scheme, we look at all the investments that are coming in all sectors, and it's not just one sector, it is going across sectors, and we are seeing some of the best names of the world trying to now source their products from India. We are seeing some of the best manufacturers of the world come to India and manufacture their goods. We see a lot of Indian companies up the game, put in more and more facilities to produce goods which are not just for today, but also for tomorrow. All this is so encouraging. What we see in terms of the logistics improvements that the government is trying to see, what we have seen in terms of digitalization in the last 4 to 5 years is incredible. I think some of the initiatives that the government of India has been trying to do are absolutely fascinating. Some things that we were talking about 15 years ago and we thought they will never happen, they happened in a jiffy. We saw things happen real fast. And big compliments to people here and the ones behind the scene for making this happen. When we talk about India being ahead in the game in terms of IT, technology, it is these initiatives that will make sure that we sit there and we say air cargo ecosystem of India is not just at par with the best in the world, but we are better than anybody else. A small thing, since we're talking about air cargo, e-aviable, India stands number 7 globally in terms of e-aviable acceptance and adoption, which is great. We sit ahead of United States, we sit ahead of Netherlands, and we sit ahead of many, many advanced economies of the world. And this is only getting started. We will be number 1 very soon. And many other digital initiatives by customs and other regulatories are also very, 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 very welcomed by the industry as a whole. We see that all these efforts and initiatives now backed by the PM Gati Shakti, the National Logistics Policy. There are so many initiatives that are being rolled out. We have been part of various discussions also in terms of logistics cost, of how we can make India not just the best, but also the most competitive logistics ecosystem. Great work is being done There's great collaboration which is happening. I think I need to talk a little bit about ACFI before I get thrown off. I have a career here for another year at least. so ACFI, ladies and gentlemen, why ACFI? Why were we created? What was the need of ACFI? ACFI was created to make sure that we are able to take one common voice to the government, to the regulatories. We sit together in one room and we discuss a lot of issues, lot of improvements that can possibly happen. We can do a lot of things between us before we go to somebody outside of us. The private sector has a lot to do. So it was a thought that came across way back in 2011. And by 2012, we were able to put everything together and launch ACFI. ACFI, which has representation from all stakeholders. Each and every key stakeholder of the industry is part of ACFI, not just as a member, but also in the governing board. You see the house here. The last 10 years, we managed and we have tried our level best to bring everybody together. ACFI is about being together. It's about us as an industry to stand together, work together as one unit in collaboration with all the other incredible and lovely associations that we've had over these years, who over the last 50, 70 years have been doing extremely great work in their areas. But we need all of us to be one. Whether it is ACFI, whether it is ACFI, it is AAFI, AMTOI, etc., all associations, we all need to come together and make sure that the dream that we are all living, that it will come true. We will only be able to bring it together if we are all together. ACFI has been working primarily on a few pillars. We call them task pillars. And all these pillars are led by very able chairpersons. We have our skill pillar, for example, which has been doing great work. And I've been talking about it, that skilling and upskilling is a very silent enabler of what you want to achieve, because the benefits are generally non-quantified, but they are of immense value to an organization and to an industry. We managed to upskill about 5,000 people over the last 3 to 5 years. We put this initiative along with the India initiative of Skill India, and we managed to put a task pillar which is working very, very efficiently. And a big thank you to the entire task pillar team for making sure that we just don't stay within one confined place. We are going online, and we have been doing a lot of online programs today. Our knowledge and research pillar has been doing incredible work by putting in a lot of researches in place. We've reached out to various airports of the world, various airlines of the world, brought in a lot of good practices that probably can come together, put them and made representation to the government to make sure that the right requisite changes in any possible infrastructure and processes could be brought in by them. Our other task pillars, whether it is policy advocacy, whether it is research, process simplification, each one of them has been working on the key pain points of the industry, making sure that they go forward. Yes, Cyrus, go green. We have a latest task pillar. Cyrus is heading that. It's one of his, it also sits as one of the key objectives. If you look at the objectives of ACFI, that we are not just talking about business, but we want to make sure that our business is absolutely environment friendly. Lots of study is being carried out by this pillar to make sure the infrastructure that we have, not just at the airports, but also the allied stakeholders around, whether they are freight forwarders, custom brokers, truckers, etc., all of them use absolutely green or environment friendly equipments, and any process is absolutely paperless. We also have a digital and automation pillar, which is looking at what can we do to further improve, further go on, and make sure that our entire processes are the best in the world. We will not just take a look at what are the best practices from around the world, but we will build new practices that possibly we will want to share, work with organizations like Chiaka, and not just, take best practices from outside, but there are surely a lot of good practices that we are bringing in the business, and we'll be happy to share them with you, and you can take it around the world. So we also have a new pillar, which is branding Air Cargo. We are talking about empowering businesses, and that's what the whole title is all about. Air Cargo, empowering businesses. And that is what we want to ensure, that we work with trade bodies like FIO, PhD, SOCHAM, and and right down to the Chamber of Commerce at a very local level. We go to the states, we talk to them, and we want to make sure that every little supplier who probably sits in one corner of the country is actually able to know what air cargo can bring to them, how they can probably propel their business. We will make sure that ACFI goes all the way along with all of you, with all great efforts that you are putting together. A big thank you from me, not just to the event pillar. Sorry, I missed out event pillar in this. Event pillar, they are not event management company, but I'm sure they will give run for their money to any event management company. They do a great, fantastic work. They definitely have a new profession going ahead. So the event guys, be mindful. You have competition, right? So great things being done together. I want to thank all of you. It is not just about a few of us who founded this organization when we started way back in 2012. That dream has gone on, and we are very grateful to all of you for coming forward and being part of this dream. And it's very heartening to see not just the chairpersons of pillars, the regional chairpersons. It is the people down below who are taking responsibility, who are taking ownership. They are walking to us. Come tell us, please, what else can we do for the industry? And it's great. We need more support. Please come forward, join us and be part of any team that you think you can contribute. This industry has given us a lot. I've got a lot from this industry in the last 28 years, and I think it's time to give back. Let's together make sure that together we are able to build an air cargo ecosystem that is the best in the world. Let's give the shippers the absolute power that they can go, they can be sure that what they will manufacture, we will put it out there in the world in absolute quick and efficient way. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's an absolute pleasure. Jai Hind.
That was brilliant. Thank you, Yash, for your forward-looking approach and the fresh impetus. Definitely under your leadership, I would say that ACFI, like we say in cargo, is an all-in. We bring together all the stakeholders, all trade associations, each one of you together under one umbrella to achieve the mammoth and meteoric milestone of 30 million metric tons by 2030. May I now please request Mr. Piyush Srivastava, Senior Economic Advisor, Ministry of Civil Aviation, to please give us his insights, inputs, and enlighten us. Thank you.
Dear friends on the dais, Mr. Yashpal Sharma, Mr. Sanjeev Edwards, Mr. Gadkara, Mr. Cyrus Kadgara, Jivisha Joshi ji, Glenn Hughes, Divya Satija, and Satish Lakhiraja ji. Delegates on the other side of the dais, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen. I think Mr. Hughes gave the setting for today's conference with his presentation of the figures that we had that actually brings to the ground the enthusiasm that we have on the basis of data. Well, India is poised to take the position that it is working for, the third largest aviation market, and the related things that we have to bring in, especially in the cargo sphere. In this context, I think the theme of today's conference, the Cargo UDAAN, is very relevant. It immediately conjures up images of a long-haul flight, and all of us who have taken a long-haul flight do know that there is sometimes turbulence lurking, and we have to deal with it. And somehow this phenomena of long-haul flights with the turbulence has an uncanny way of replicating itself in the policy realm and the business of airlines. So we were just coming out of the storm of COVID when we were hit by a turbulence again in the form of high ATF prices. We tried to deal with it. We tried to bring down the VAT so that the price of ATF comes down. We succeeded in 17 states. We are working for others. And of course, we have now 31 states on our side where the ATF is low, but the 5 states that we are still working on, including Delhi, have high ATF rates, but that is work in progress. So I was talking about turbulence. And now we have had a whiplash action in the form of disruption of supply chain, largely on account of COVID, I believe, where we have an issue of maintenance of engines, which has resulted in 70 aircraft on the ground, and a couple of airlines are suffering. We've all read the news yesterday. Not a very good development, but nevertheless, that is part of the aviation journey. That is the way it is. You know, just a couple of days, in fact, 2 weeks back, the Honorable Prime Minister was addressing us on the occasion of Civil Services Day. And there he said that there are two ways of dealing an issue. One is the active way, and the other is the passive way. And of course, there are no prizes for guessing what the Honorable Prime Minister would have espoused. He wants us to follow the active way. And I take this opportunity to take you back exactly 357 days in the memory lane, in this very hall, in this very stage, in the presence of the Honorable Minister, Mr. Scindia. I had made a reference that the Ministry of Civil Aviation in the present leadership does not believe in taking things in a reactive way. We wanted to be proactive. And we have done this. We might have succeeded somewhere. We might have... we are still doing work. While not say we have not succeeded, we are still on the job. And we will succeed eventually. There are many various issues on the policy front, on the tax front. We've done the advocacy. We also work on it ourselves. And there's no other way but to succeed, as has been rightly pointed out by a couple of speakers, including Mr. Sharma, that in India, we do not believe in not getting things done. We know that it will get done. It's only a question of time. At that time, when we were having discussions, one issue came that a country of our size, our potential, and our dimensions deserves to have hubs, transshipment hubs. Again, an issue came that the transshipment hub requires an anchor airline. And we all realized, in fact, at that point of time, things are dynamic. At that point, it was felt that creating a hub, government can only provide a facilitating environment, but the hub will get created based on the global economic scenario and how the aviation sector works and, excuse me, foresees the growth. So we decided that it's an exogenous factor. We have laid out the red carpet and let us see what happens. But then, as they say that the fortune favors the brave, providentially, we were working on the privatization of Air India, and it happened last year. And now Air India has placed a huge order of aircrafts, including 70 wide-body aircraft, which should give us a good springboard to create aviation hubs in the country. And I would believe that the size of India's size merits at least 4 or 5, at least 5 hubs. And we are now poised to do this. And maybe by the end of my posting here, my tenure here, we'll see at least a couple of international transshipment hubs in the country. Besides the exogenous factors that we thought which have now become endogenous, there were other endogenous factors. In fact, I see Kekuji in the audience, and the organization that he used to lead, the I-Class, which is a subsidiary of Air India, Airport Authority of India, has done a lot of work. In fact, 31 domestic airports have cargo facilities, including 21 of them which have cold storage facilities. There are 13 terminals which have international cargo facilities, including one for cold storages. There are 10 private airports. All of them have state-of-the-art facilities. 2 state airports which have state-of-the-art facilities. So there are a lot of endogenous factors that we are working on. I will not even try to dwell on the policy and the taxation issues because that's still work in progress. But as I said, we will be there surely. And PM Gati Shakti that Mr. Yashpal was mentioning, and I'm sure Jivisha will is actually itching to speak about that. I will not get into that. And Ulip, Jivisha, I'm sure you will tell our audience here about what good work the DPIIT has been doing in this. I would like to allude to another thing that we have been doing, that is the Krishi Udan scheme, which has a bearing on cargo. Krishi Udan, as we know, is meant for perishable commodities, and especially in the Northeast, but of course now we have expanded to 58 airports. The critical thing about Krishi Udan scheme is that you can take benefit out of the concessions that the airports offer, provided you operate a freighter. Now, before 2019, we had, in fact, by 2019, we had a good fleet of 28 freighters, which came down to less than 8, in fact, 8, 1.5 years back. And now again, there are new players, and the earlier players are also bringing in new aircraft in the freighter sphere. So we have crawled up to around 12, and by the end of year, I believe we'll have 14 freighters. All these freighters need to be deployed for sure. And I would urge all of you to take the benefits of Krishi Udan scheme. It is a win-win situation. You get the concessions that are there, and the hinterland that you serve also grows economically, and then the virtuous cycle sets in, and we know the benefits, as Mr. Hughes and Yashpal ji pointed out about the aviation industry. I think this conference is very opportune, and a lot of ideas will come up by the end of the discussions in the evening. But what happens in such conferences usually is that we get amorphous ideas, wide sweep ideas, which need a lot of work before they can actually be taken down for action. So the various pillars that Mr. Yashpal was mentioning, I think they'll have a lot of work, and at the end of this conference, they'll get ideas. They will need to be worked on, fleshed out for facts and figures, maybe some international routing on that. But what I would look for, in fact, I would urge the various pillars, is that after this conference, when you have those ideas, work on those ideas, test them on the touchstones of doability and desirability. And only when they qualify in those two test stones, then maybe you would want to prioritize them in terms of what is to be done immediately, what can be done in the medium term, and what can be done in the long term. I think that will be very useful when you come to us and bring those ideas to us, because our ministry, as I said, at the risk of being repetitive, but I have no hesitation in saying this, that we actually want to stay ahead of the curve. And in fact, it warmed the cockles of my heart when Mr. Yashpal said that we are ahead of the industry in this. But the ideal situation would be when both of us are working in tandem. So you can give us what you want us to do, and give it to us in a doable form, and we'll be happy to take it to its logical conclusion. I think I must now stand by, for there are other speakers who would want to, you would want to hear to them as much as I do. So thank you very much for having me over and making me be a part of this community. I wish the conference a huge success. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Piyush ji. The motivation, the hand-holding which the government gives us is incredible. And now with the phoenix rise of our national carrier, Air India, and the air cargo industry definitely has emerged, as I already said, from the cocoon, from the chrysalis, to soar higher and higher. May I now please request Ms. Jivisha Joshi, Deputy Secretary, Logistics Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, Ministry of Commerce, to please come forward and give us her insights and inputs, please. A round of applause for Ms. Jivisha Joshi.
Very good morning to everyone. And again, I would like to extend my thanks for having me here. I would also like to thank Piyush sir for setting the context so well. And Mr. K. Kugasar, who has been associated with us for a long time now and working with us. Whenever we talk about what government is doing and what we are achieving and the policies which we are coming up with, everyone has already mentioned about PM Gati Shakti, which is sort of a flagship thing which we are working on. I cannot call it a scheme, I cannot call it a single project because it comprises of many folds of detail into it. Briefly to touch upon what are the initiatives of government and what logistic division in DPIIT is working upon is that, as you're aware, Honorable Prime Minister Sir has launched PM Gati Shakti in 2021. The idea was to make sure that though individually we are doing a lot of progress in various transportation ministries, whether it is railways, aviation, ports, shipping, but the idea was to make sure that the horizontal integration is done as well as what we have achieved when it comes to vertical integration. What we mean is that when one ministry is planning anything, it must be integrated well with what others are doing. It is generally the lack of awareness of what two other people are planning that we end up creating a vacuum, a situation where something is left, and that exact point becomes the pain point. When we talk about higher logistic cost, that is exactly what we're talking about, the first mile, last mile connectivity gaps. Now, PM Gati Shakti has come up with two components where we have an administrative structure which has come up at center and state. But at the same time, we have developed a very robust digital platform. The layers keeps changing. At present, we have 1600. We may go up and down based on how we are standardizing our formats. But the idea is that we in government are able to visualize everything without even actually talking to someone else. So you are aware of the upcoming projects, you're aware of the upcoming planning, you're aware of the project stage where they are, and then you can integrate with them better. So PM Gati Shakti aims at two things. One, to bring multimodality whenever we are planning an infrastructure, and also about timely execution, synchronized implementation of project. You all are aware that when we talk about any project, the maximum issues or the time and cost overrun, which all of us struggle with, whether we are in government or in private sector. And when you dwell into the details, you'll find that land acquisitions and clearances becomes major issue. Now, these are some of the things which we are working on. But at the same time, to reduce this problem in the starting, a planning well done reduces half of your problems. So that is what we are focusing on. So when we talk about PM Gati Shakti, we want to have a planning which is so well done, which minimizes your clearances, which minimizes your issue, which minimizes your disruption in the futuristic course. Another important thing which we are working on is national logistic policy, something we launched last year. We had three simple goals when we came out, and Honorable Prime Minister asked us that please make a policy which can be executed. Do not come out with a policy where you do not have an action plan. So, we had to have a lot of thinking that what will be our exact immediate actionable goal. We had to identify our problem statement for the country, what will be the solution, and who will solve the problem. This was the level of detailing we went into before we even launched the policy. Just to give you an idea, these are generally the things you do after you launch a policy. So, that is a different thing which we had to go through. And so the three goals which we talked about, one was to decrease our logistic cost. Second was to improve our ranking in LPI, that is Logistic Performance Index. And third was to have this indigenous decision-backed systems. I'll briefly touch upon all the three goals. As has already been mentioned, we have improved our Logistic Performance Index, and it is heartening to note that the maximum improvement we have achieved is in logistic efficiency. Now that gives me immense pleasure because, we have been working for it for a long time, and to have something, another important point is the perception-based ranking. So sometimes you can change the ground facts, but still not change the perception. It's not easy. So we were able to do the changes, and people could actually think and see that the changes were actually done. That is an interesting thing. World Bank mentions about an interesting initiative which DPIIT is working on, that is Logistic Data Bank, where we are tracking and tracing each and every container in the country It's a huge exercise. I have been to a lot of international forums and countries in recent past, and everywhere ask this question. Because we all are aware, when COVID struck us, supply chain resiliency became an important issue, something we never talked about. So logistics was always behind the scene, but suddenly when everything got stuck, people were talking about how to make the system more resilient, how to make sure that this disruptions can be tackled. And the containerized cargo, the amount went up. If you look at the index, Dury index and all that, you'll find 600 times the cost was increasing for a container. So it was important, very important to track the movement of container in a country as big. See, if you look at a country like Singapore and you talk to them about hinterland movement, there is no hinterland movement. It's just done at the port. But we in our country, we have ICDs. It's important to measure that once a container is entering, how long it's going to take, what is going to be the turnaround time, when it is going to be available again. And to make that faster and to make sure that this journey continues, LDB has been tracking all our containers in the country. They're measuring the dwell time at the ports. And see, as a government, I can just come out with a figure and I can ease the regulations. That's all we can do. But when people get to know where you're doing better, that's where, the more, if you look at it and if you see that there's this particular port where the dwell time is reduced, you as a businessman would like to be there rather than anywhere else. So these are the points, these are the figure which we are trying to make available. We are trying to make sure that tracking and tracing becomes important. We have digital system, and thus we are always aware of where my cargo is moving. ULIP, like Sir has mentioned, so we were recently having a discussion and someone from the industry side mentioned that ULIP has the potential to become the UPI for logistics. What UPI did for the financial system, exactly something what we are doing at ULIP. And this is the time for all of you. I urge you all to get associated with what we are doing. To give you a brief idea, we have got 3 structure layers, and we have done the integration and the government layer, but the application layer is open for all the private sector. That is where you come in. We have integrated more than 30 plus systems of various ministries, including aviation, iClass and all has been integrated. We have integrated the custom, IceGate, eSanchat, everything. And we are trying to create a database which is freely available for you to develop application for your usage. One of the important thing when you talk about and when you see the growth of our country, it is based on open technology systems. A lot of countries, when they have come up with whatever kind of technological innovations they have been coming up, they are not open systems. They are not talking to each other. You end up making a lot of systems, a lot of application. None of them talk to each other. There's duplication, there is difficulty in the exchange. All these you are all well aware of because you are more on the user side. So ULIP is trying to come up with the solution for all of this. So again, whoever has not seen what ULIP is or has not gone through it, I'll request you all to please connect with us. We would love to take you in details, and we would love to have you onboarded with us on this system. Another thing which I would like to touch upon is logistic cost. Now, we all have heard and that's 13%, somewhere it is 13, someone mentions 8, and someone says it's higher. And it was interesting that when I was having a discussion before we came up, someone mentioned, no, it is not high. It is so good when someone from industry says that. I'm so, every time all I hear is that, the cost is very high and that is why everything is difficult. Since we want in our policy to reduce the cost, the idea is not just to give you a figure that no, we have reduced. The understanding is, if I have a benchmark that this is my logistic cost, and if I'm able to break my cost into the components of what actually comprise of my logistic cost, then actually we can act as a government where which policy, which regulation needs reform. Now that is where DPIT is doing this work. Last a month ago almost, we had an international logistic cost calculation workshop where all our seniors were available, and we had discussion with all the international countries who are actually calculating their cost and doing the similar exercise. We have Mr. Keku on our task force, who is actually helping the ministry at this moment to understand what all will comprise as logistic cost. And what we aim is that in maybe next 2 to 3 months, come up with a ballpark figure, just which may not be the complete picture, because see that we are doing just to build our case. And by next year, we will be sure of a good methodology, sir, where we will have all the components and how we will either we'll be going for a survey or we are going to have some data from the government sources. All that is under discussion at this moment. But then by next year, you will all know what is the country's logistic cost each year, where it is increasing, where it is decreasing, and thus we'll be able to sort of have a discussion and, we can have your inputs accordingly. So another important point which we are working on and which we look forward to, again, if anyone wants to contribute regarding this or want to share your insight, please share it either with me or Mr. Keku, who is working with us, and we would like to have a detailed discussion on the same with all of you. I think last point which I would like to mention before I leave the dais is we are also working on LEAPS, which is our ranking initiative we have recently launched. Last year, we had Logistic Excellence Award, where we wanted to recognize each and everyone. This year, since our nationalistic policy has launched, has already been there, we have made it a base, and we are trying to recognize excellence in each and every sector. I'll again request all the players who are today to kindly have a participation. It will be an interesting thing. We will learn a lot about the industry. These are the small things by which we also understand who is excelling in which part when it comes to industry. So these are just the brief initiatives that I wanted to touch upon. And again, I would like to thank you all. Obviously, air cargo is the thing which we are looking forward to for any kind of last mile connectivity. One cannot have, or one cannot achieve the dream of becoming a 32.8 trillion economy by 2047, which we keep quoting, unless we have air cargo as our backbone. The kind of geography which we have, the kind of connectivity which we have, the last mile connectivity has to happen only with the aviation sector. So I wish you all the best for the same, and I wish this conference all the best. And I look forward to all the ideas, whichever you come out with after all the panel discussion. We'll be happy to discuss it with all of you. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Jifa Shaji. That was truly enlightening, and horizontal integration, as you said, absolutely 10% is the key to move forward. We have to have a robust linear strength in place. Digitalization definitely has been the savior for all of us. We all have heard all our eminent speakers, brilliant minds before us speak. When visionaries like these come together, limitless potential is unleashed and powerful thoughts transpire. I would now request Mr. Sanjeev Edward to please come forward and share his thoughts and digitally unveil the ACFI brand video thereafter.
Yeah, good morning, everyone, and to all my distinguished colleagues on the dais, government officials, thank you for making us. Thank you for the very inspiring speeches and encouraging the ACFI team, and also my industry colleagues on the dais and industry colleagues on the other side of the dais as well. But each of you is very important for us. ACFI, as we see it, before we see our brand video, it's been a journey of over a decade, and it's very great to see some of our ex-past president also sitting on the front lines over here. I was sitting on the dais over here with a sense of joy as I see the room full, but I also with a sense of sadness, because I only hope we could push the walls aside and get more people into the room, because ACFI is about, we owe our success to the individuals sitting in this room, but also many who are outside of this room. ACFI is somehow or the other impacted every single person who's involved with air cargo. And I would say that, be it our past presidents who've actually been instrumental in bringing us where we are, be it also, some of you are directly involved, your board members, part of the skill towers or different pillars. But there are some of you who've not been involved, but you've given us your problems, and we've We tried to solve them. So you're also very much part of ACFI. We also see the government as part of this because, sir, you've heard us. You've tried to solve our problems. You're still listening and you're encouraging that you will support us. So thank you so much for that. We also see, Glyn, you're not left out. Tiaka has brought up a lot of learning how ACFI is structured. So, you're also part of this. Also, our journalist friends for the love and concern that you've shown, for the coverage that you do for us, and make sure that ACFI, whatever we're doing, gets noticed. So I think ACFI is about every single individual in this room and outside of this room involved with the industry. When Satish was talking, he coined an acronym for ACFI. He was saying, it's about A stands for the attitude, and C is for the collaboration, F is for flexibility, and I stands for the intelligent. And when we say intelligent, I think it's the intelligent you, because ACFI is about you as individuals, about every single individual who's involved with ACFI. And ACFI is not just another association. I see it more like a movement. It's a movement dedicated to air cargo. It's a movement which I would kind of simplify and put it in 3 R's. It's a movement about recognizing the true value that air cargo can bring to the industry. And Glyn very rightly got some numbers where how you can turn a $800 million business into a $1.2 billion business if you use air cargo in the right way. So it's about restoring what air cargo has lost to other modes of transport. The second R is about being responsible. At ACFI, we are not just talking about problems, we own the problems. We take the problems, solve the problems, and take it back to the industry. Thirdly, it's about, the third R is about rejuvenating. It's about rejuvenating cargo professionals like you to really aspire to greater heights, to make sure that you can do your best to contribute to air cargo, be it about, skilling, or conferences like this where we make sure we have ideas that can contribute to you taking it back and making a meaningful contribution. So as we see this brand video, we see you as brand ambassadors. So when you see this video, it's not about ACFI. See it as if it's a video about you. You are the brand ambassadors, and it's about what you have achieved. See it with a sense of pride, saying that I'm part of this movement. And that's what ACFI is all about. So as we now unveil this video, I'm told there's a technology button, somebody will press it and, it'll happen. So I will make sure that, the technology team can just, we'll do a countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's go.
Billions of people, millions of tons of cargo. This is the air cargo industry, which actively bridges the supply chain for crucial sectors like e-commerce, perishables, healthcare, fashion, consumer electronics, and lifestyle, and several others. Our lives have undoubtedly been enriched by the air cargo sector. It was 1910 when a cargo with 10 bolts of silk traveled 65 miles from Dayton to a retail store in Columbus, Ohio. For over a century, planes have been the fastest mode of transportation that also move millions of pieces every day. During the pandemic, air cargo became a lifeline of the society in its truest sense, keeping international supply chains going. It's about time India becomes the reigning champion of the air cargo industry. When the Air Cargo Forum India, ACFI, was established on 14th September 2012, we envisioned an India with a world-class environment-friendly air logistics industry, driven by innovation, with credible allied activities that provide business facilitation, laying the groundwork for India's rise as a superpower. ACFI is registered as a distinctive nationwide forum, represented by the members of the entire air cargo logistics in India, having participation of all stakeholders. It's a unique body whose governing board has a diverse inclusion of senior leaders from across the air logistics fraternity, including airlines, airports, cargo terminal operators, freight forwarders, custom brokers, express operators, GSSA's bonded truckers, and more, covering domestic and international cargo. The association also works hand in hand with other logistics associations in India and overseas. ACFI activity ensures inclusivity sits in the core of all its actions. From its inception, ACFI has worked to improve the country's ease of doing business index, pursuing challenges at various platforms like the Ministry of Civil Aviation, Cargo Logistics Promotion Board, Directorate General of Foreign Trade, Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Ministry of Finance, Bureau of Civil Aviation Security, Ministry of Textiles and all PGAs of the country. We knew we were off to a flying start when the air cargo industry got the 24/7 clearance by customs for all export goods and import RMS consignments from 1st July 2013. But things were only getting started and much more had to be done. ACFI has been working on its objectives continuously, taking initiative by making recommendations related to policies and process of air cargo logistics through its core objectives. To foster world-class air cargo infrastructure and industry improvements in India, integrate members' shared interests while securing better airport facilities to streamline their operations, make government bodies cognizant of policy bottlenecks in order to promote India's air cargo growth, promote sustainable cargo operations with paperless transactions, e-trade, e-freight and cargo community systems in line with trade partners and government agencies. Institute a research wing to raise internal and public awareness of air cargo through research projects and technology demonstrations. Stimulate India-specific air cargo modernization at par with international standards by convening high-level committees of industry experts to promote and induce useful knowledge of air cargo transports and logistics business among its members and public. ACFI has established dedicated task force pillars to achieve objectives like policy advocacy, process simplification, event management and skill development, knowledge and research, digital automation subgroup, Go Green subgroup, branding air cargo. We have a nationwide presence and ACFI regional chapters work at micro levels and ensure the objectives of the forum reach all fraternity members. Ahmedabad, Bengaluru, Chennai, Delhi, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Mumbai, Kerala and more. We've come a long way, both as a nation and as an individual benefactor for the nation. With the Indian air cargo industry primed for sustained growth, ACFI aligns with the Government of India's Ministry of Civil Aviation's goal of reaching 10 million metric tons of air cargo by 2030 to 31. ACFI pledges to give wings to businesses and will ensure the entire air cargo ecosystem of India helps to galvanize growth by connecting the Indian producers to global buyers in the fastest way. Together we can, and together we will.
Thank you, Sanjeev. I totally agree with you. ACFI definitely is a movement. I would say it's an adrenaline rush. Having recently been associated with ACFI, I can vouch for this. You can feel the energy, the enthusiasm, and propelling the industry forward. I would say ACFI is the roar of a tiger, a harbinger of new ideas, a hand that holds us and takes us forward. The strength which we all can see very evidently over here will definitely make us reach the 10 million metric ton target. Together we can, together we will. May I now request Ms. Divya Satija, Ministry of Commerce, to come forward and share her insights and views with us. Can we have a round of applause for Ms. Divya Satija, please?
Thank you so much. Once again, I would also like to thank to have invited me for this very wonderful event. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be sitting with this august gathering of panelists on the dais and being amongst all of you, esteemed industry players. Thank you very much and congratulations on this very successful event. I won't take much of your time as already a lot has been said. It's evident that the industry is making tremendous waves of growth. we've heard a lot on what the government has been doing, not just for the aviation industry, but also for the entire infrastructure and logistics sector per se. So with the permission of the dignitaries on the dais, if I may set the futuristic context for the industry here, in line with the initiatives that have been taken by the Government of India in the past couple of years. And I need not say more that the impact of that is already very much visible. So when we launched the Gati Shakti program, a vision was given to us by the Honorable Prime Minister to break silos in the government and advance as a whole of government approach. I think we may take the liberty to say that to some extent the silos have significantly been broken in the government, at least for the planning and execution of projects in the logistics and infrastructure domain. So maybe now take it forward to how we can adopt a whole of industry approach by integrating the efforts of the industry per se. We talk about optimizing cost in the sector. So maybe looking at, and if you see the full slogan of Gati Shakti, it is PM Gati Shakti for multimodal connectivity to economic zone. So perhaps integrating efforts across different modes in the industry could be the call that the whole logistics ecosystem could come together and evaluate. I believe that as an economist, I want to say this, that will definitely pave the way forward for reaping the economies of scale for different players who have a unique role and unique contribution to this whole sector. And as Mr. Satish in the beginning said, that the I in the ACFI stands for intelligent. And if I may take the liberty to replace it with integrated per se, perhaps we can explore that as well. I am certain that several digital initiatives are being undertaken even by the aviation industry, but only the Logistics Data Bank had mentioned in the World Bank's performance report. So perhaps we can upscale the initiatives that are being taken even in the aviation sector to a national scale so that they also enjoy global recognition and our ranking improves even further. It was mentioned just now that we are thinking of the aviation industry has taken several steps for digitization of document exchange. May I bring to your notice that we are launching the government is launching a significant initiative called the Secured Logistics Document Exchange Program on the ULIP, which is not only to replace exchange of manual documents with digitization, but it will also facilitate digitizing security declarations. So I urge the industry here taking this opportunity that perhaps all initiatives that are being taken at industry level, maybe the time is now that we leverage them, dovetail it with other modes of transport and bring them to a national scale, for which the government has laid an excellent platform, be it ULIP or be it various other institutional initiatives that have been taken, as mentioned by Dr. Joshi, one of them being the undertaken under PM Gati Shakti, the other called the Services Improvement Framework, I believe is one of the most remarkable steps taken by the government, which uses both an institutional framework and digital technology to bring together the voices of the industry. An e-logs portal has been launched wherein all industry associations can register, and I'm happy to say that ACFI has already registered issues and voices of the industry. Even feedbacks can be registered on that portal, and the government, the logistics division, which is steering this particular group, is taking it up on a fortnightly basis, facilitating interministerial coordination just for speedy resolution, so that not only in projects, but even in logistics services, there is no pendency. So to be able to become a Vishwaguru, as is the slogan that has been given to us by our Honorable Prime Minister, we are very proud to say that we are totally on the journey of Atmanirbharta. We have come up with various indigenous data-based initiatives. Some of them have been spoken about. And there is another initiative called the LEADS, wherein we rank states on their performance. I know that the industry has a huge target of 10 million tons by 2030. And you do aspire to reach out to the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So what better than, using Gati Shakti as this initiative not only facilitates a lot of planning on a digital portal, but the institutional mechanism de-risks investments in the supply chain to a great extent, by faster clearances, faster interministerial coordination, and the aim is to reduce pendency and minimize disruption as much as possible. So perhaps that's also another area where the industry could take a look. And I think a lot has already been said, and I just would like to leave this platform by one last comment that I would like to make, that last year aviation industry did record a 4 lakh plus passenger traffic. It's a heartening number, and we wish all the best that perhaps the cargo industry would also record such heights. And also, I leave a food for thought for the participants here, that how can we explore the integration of aviation industry to strengthen our regional connectivity and embark on a journey to become a strong, to facilitate a development of strong economic corridors and become a Vishwaguru in the true sense. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Divyaji. Indeed, empires of the future are empires of the mind. And thank you for giving us a futuristic approach. Experience, energy. When there is a fusion of experience and energy, what we have before us is what we always look forward to. I would like to invite all the past presidents on stage, please, Mr. Pradeep Panikkar, Mr. Tushar Jani, and Mr. Cyrus Katkara. I would request our guest of honors, Mr. Piyush Srivastava, Ms. Jivisha Joshi, and Ms. Divya Satija, to please facilitate our pillars, our past presidents of ACFI. Please, can we have a big round of applause for all of them? They have been the visionaries of ACFI. ACFI since 2012, 15 September, was a small conception, and today look where we are. Can we have, please, Mr. Piyush Srivastava to facilitate Mr. Pradeep Panikkar? Can we have the beautiful ladies give the plaques? Can we please have Ms. Jivisha Joshi to present the plaque to Mr. Tushar Jani? Can we have a round of applause, please? We want the energy coming. We will have our tea and coffee break. Can we now have Ms. Divya Satija to present the plaque to Mr. Cyrus Katkara, please? Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. And can we have a round of applause for all our guest of honors, our president, our event chairman, and our past presidents. There is indeed a lot of effort put behind the scenes from a lot who are not here us now, but they are the IT, the secretariat, the ones behind the curtain. Everyone is working very hard, toiling day and night, burning the midnight lamp to make this a success. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Panikkar. Thank you, Mr. Jani. And thank you, Mr. Katkara. May I now request Mr. Ramesh Mamidala, Honorary Secretary, ACFI, and Head Cargo Commercial, Air India Limited, to please come up on stage and give the vote of thanks. Mr. Ramesh Mamidala, please.
Thank you. Good morning, all of you. So I think we have received a very overwhelming response for this. So I'm here to thank all of you. So there are so many of you physically present here, so thank you for taking time out to participate. But we also note that there are many of our colleagues, industry colleagues, that are joining us virtually. So I thank all of them as well. And among the people that are on the dais, I thank Glyn, for taking time out to participate. And we've had very useful, deep insights from all the attendees here. I also thank Sri Piyush Srivastava ji, Ms. Jivisha Joshi and Madam Divya Satija for their presence here. And also thank all the past presidents that are here, Pradeep, Tushar, Cyrus. I think your presence is very motivating and very encouraging as well. Also thank the event organizing committee headed by Satish. I think an extremely well done job. We still have a lot to go in the event today, but they have done a fantastic job. Also thank the sponsors for generous contribution in terms of supporting this event. Also thank the media colleagues that are present here to cover this event. Thank the ACFI Secretariat headed by Kunwarji. I think it's a great team. They've really worked very hard to make this happen. Also thank the hotel staff and the management team for making this happen. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ramesh ji. Indeed, there are a lot of thank yous to people who are behind the scenes as well. And thank you to all of them for making this happen. We now will proceed for a tea break so that all of you all can come rejuvenated to have and witness the first session of Air Cargo, the business galvanizer. So we take a small break now, but request everyone to please be back on your seats in the next 15 minutes, please. Thank you. I'm sorry, can we just apologies. We need to just present the plaques to our guest of honors. Yes. Can I request the President, Mr. Yashpal Sharma? I'm sorry, we need to present the plaques to the guest of honors. Can we have a round of applause? Mr. Yashpal Sharma, can you present the plaque to Mr. Piyush Srivastava, please? Can we request Mr. Satish Lakaraju to please present the plaque to Ms. Jivisha Joshi? This can be better. Can we have a bigger round of applause, especially for women empowerment? Can I please request Mr. Sanjeev Edward to present the plaque to Ms. Divya Satija? Let the claps go on. Let's have bigger and bigger round of applauses. Thank you so much. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you to all the guests of honors. Thank you. Can I also request Mr. Ramesh Mamadala, please, to present the plaque to Mr. Glenn Hughes? I'm sorry, there is a last-minute shuffle. This one deserves the biggest round of applause. Mr. Glenn Hughes. He is such a passionate leader and has an unparalleled track record of the past 3 decades of being a driving change in the air cargo industry and promoting its values to the government, partners, and across the aviation industry. Thank you, Glenn.
this photo of me. On this. Correct. So only session 1 has.
Oh, anyways, I'm not after hosting after that.
Only one session.
This is the air cargo industry, which actively bridges the supply chain for crucial sectors like e-commerce, perishables, healthcare, fashion, consumer electronics, and lifestyle, and several others. Our lives have undoubtedly been enriched by the air cargo sector. It was 1910 when a cargo with 10 bolts of silk traveled 65 miles from Dayton to a retail store in Columbus, Ohio. For over a century, planes have been the fastest mode of transportation that also move millions of pieces every day. During the pandemic, air cargo became a lifeline of the society in its truest sense, keeping international supply chains going. It's about time India becomes the reigning champion of the air cargo industry. When the Air Cargo Forum India (ACFI) was established on 14 September 2012, we envisioned an India with a world-class environment-friendly air logistics industry, driven by innovation, with credible allied activities that provide business facilitation, laying the groundwork for India's rise as a superpower. ACFI is registered as a distinctive nationwide forum, represented by the members of the entire air cargo logistics in India, having participation of all stakeholders. It's a unique body whose governing board has a diverse inclusion of senior leaders from across the air logistics fraternity, including airlines, airports, cargo terminal operators, freight forwarders, custom brokers, express operators, GSSAs, bonded truckers, and more, covering domestic and international cargo. The association also works hand in hand with other logistics associations in India and overseas. ACFI activity ensures inclusivity sits in the core of all its actions. From its inception, ACFI has